Thank you very much, Dirk. That was indeed an honor, and that's hard to follow after that introduction. I first want to start off with introducing Ellen Walker Matthews, if you can just stand up, and Angela Nagy, and Mike Overend, members of our team, which I'll talk a little bit later in the presentation. Yeah, I'm from Canada in British Columbia. And just to give you a sense of where we are, British Columbia is the westernmost province in Canada. And we're the southern interior region. It's about 71,000 square kilometers in size. We have 90 communities, 33 Indigenous communities within the region. And tourism is the #1 economic sector. And I wanted to show some pretty pictures since we're in tourism and that's what we do. You can see we have very strong diversity of natural product, and from the highest mountain in the Canadian Rockies, which you see over there, to Canada's only desert in the southern part of the region. So in tourism in British Columbia as a province, you can see it's big business. It's about $16 billion in annual revenue and about 127,000 jobs. In our region particularly, it's about 800 million in hotel revenue, 35,000 jobs direct into the economy, and 5 million visitors annually and about 3 billion in overall economic impact. So I represent an organization that is a not-for-profit organization. We're the official representative of Destination British Columbia, which is the overall provincial agency. And we're run by a board of directors elected across the region. And our mission is to stimulate the ongoing sustainable growth in the value of tourism through innovative leadership and promoting unique experiences and inspiring creative collaboration. And we employed this model in the development of this observatory and why we felt it was very important to be a part of this network, a global network of terrific organizations focused on sustainability. Our journey started probably about 10 years ago, where we felt we were at a sort of a crossroads, and we talked a lot about seasonality here today. We were a very seasonal destination, and I'll touch on this later in the presentation, but we generated all our economic wealth in 45 days. All those numbers that you saw earlier was generated in 45 days, and if you didn't make your money in 45 days, you were probably out of business. And we knew that was a crisis situation. And so the entire region started to look at changing the way the modeling worked in terms of its interaction with the industry. One of the things that we did with our internal practice is we abolished membership. Most societies have memberships. We made everybody in the region a member of our association, which meant that all 4,500 operators in the region automatically engaged in the program areas, and it was incredible change. The other changes we put in our practice was focused on a full-on sustainable development department. Moved way away from marketing as a focus, but focused on sustainable development practice. Interesting to hear about Sergio talk about financing. That was a big issue that we also tackled early on to make sure that we have sustainability as an association to deliver on the observatory. We've created a for-profit division that sells data sets to our industry and to other partners. And we have a foundation that we've established to support the practices that we're doing within our observatory. And so we generate a great deal of revenue from that foundation. One of the things that's really important at the top of our success of this observatory is we have a strategy in place. Everybody's got a strategy, but this strategy was formally endorsed by all 90 communities and all 33 Indigenous communities. And to have a common vision for a region the size of Ireland was a big undertaking, but it was important and vital to overcome some significant crisis. But also it founded on this whole notion of sustainable development and sustainability, which led us to a number of specific projects that we've been focused on, from slow food to Indigenous tourism to accessibility to crisis management to trails development and to workforce development. All those factors are within our observatory measurement objectives. And partnerships that we focused on were obviously universities and municipalities, but we've also included the local water board and every environmental organization that exists. All 42 environmental organizations in the region are formally part of our association and part of this observatory. Women's enterprise agencies, transportation companies, technology companies, to just name a few. And I know I'm talking in a few minutes, a little bit further detail on those partnerships, but it was really important to build a strong network. Another key part of the observatory, which led us to where we're here today, was we became a biosphere certified destination through Responsible Tourism Institute, making us the first in the Americas to achieve that. But it really helped us give a framework and an understanding that sustainability is very holistic. It was educating the industry and the important opportunity that was played here and the important measures that we needed to look at. And we look at 137 measures to fulfill that certification. And from there, we were able to create a business adhesion program where we have businesses participate in a biosphere certification at the local level to engage them in that process, which led us to the big data. And I've been very impressed with some of the presentations I've already heard today about using telecom technology, which we've been using for the last 6 years around monitoring visitor patterns and visitor usage of various infrastructure that we have. But we also are now embarked on this notion of measuring carbon footprint, water, waste, energy consumption. Energy consumption with our local energy producer has provided us a full-time assessor that goes into businesses to help them reduce their energy consumption in those indicators. And we're able then to take that data and put it within the framework of the observatory. We also measure, obviously, local sentiment, and I'll be talking about that in about 10 minutes. And again, as I mentioned, visitor patterns. So that's been a big framework for the observatory as we move forward. As I mentioned, we've been worked very hard on ensuring we have certification from both from an internal practice to obviously an external practice. And what's been very important for us to get industry really engaged and raise the profile of the area is that we've been recognized by a number of agencies for the work on this notion of sustainable development and sustainability. And in the last interesting, and I'll just stop right there. So in 2012, as I mentioned, our revenue was generated in 45 days, 80% of revenue. And that had been going on for 60 years, as long as the tourism industry existed in our region. And despite tremendous infrastructure investment and putting programs in shoulder seasons, there was no change in that graph, no matter what happened. And so by working together and getting people to pool their ideas together and having a common vision for the future of a region, we started to see a dramatic change. And since the strategy was launched, you can press it now, we are now at 110 days. And that was a big change in people's industry to buy into why we were doing this, and this focus on sustainability and developing an industry that focused on the right tourist for the right place at the right time had changed the metric. And our goal is to get to 200 days. We feel that that's a sustainable destination in our view and from an economics perspective. There has to be some downtime and for a whole bunch of good reasons, but we're on the road to get there. So this is our team. As I mentioned, we have accessibility specialists and Indigenous specialists. And finally, I have one more specialist who's on the last slide, which is so important. He's our rock star in the office. Thank you very much.